Good day everyone. So I'm going to show you example 3 for this week's class, which is week 3. And the sketch that we are going to create is a hook. You'll typically see these hooks on a crane that's used to lift objects from the ground. So yeah, we're going to sketch this hook. The difficulty with this hook is it's a lot of circles. So you'll see that uh, many of the features of the hook are circles, coincident with each other. So for instance, that was also a circle which is just trimmed to represent that curve. So we're going to create this hook, and yeah, you can follow with me the steps that I'm going to take to get this sketch. So in the NX environment, you can create your new part in the modeling environment, and we're going to create a model. So you can just name it what you want. So this is example 3.3, and then the folder that you want to save it in, you can just select with this button. Mine is already in the correct folder, and once you're clicking OK, it will take you to the sketching environment, or the modeling environment rather. And then creating a sketch, you just click the sketch button, and then we're going to sketch from the front plane. So starting a sketch is best practice to start a sketch in the middle. So this is not a symmetric model, but if you have a symmetric feature model, you want to start in the middle. So then you can only draw the left side of the model and use the mirror feature to create the right side, saving you a lot of time. So this is not quite symmetric. However, the top side is relatively symmetric. So we're going to start a sketch with this circle. So going to NX, that circle has a radius of a diameter rather of 44 millimeters. So we're just going to create a circle with radius 44, and you just hit 44 and enter, so it creates the circle. Now moving back to that, you'll see there's a lot of circles here. So another circle that's from this center point is this circle with a radius of 26, so that's a diameter of 52. So you can just enter 52 and hit enter on your computer, and it will automatically enlarge or change the circle's diameter, and it's also from the center point. So you click there and it creates the circle. Now these two circles are not from that center point. Now how do I know that? Firstly, you'll see that if the draftsman created the technical drawing correctly, you'll see that the diameter dimension is not from that center point, so it's from another center point, and that center point's distance from the original center point is indicated as 10 millimeters. So we're going to create a circle of 88 diameter or 44 radius 44. So and hit enter, and then you can position it a bit to the left of the original center point, and you'll see that dotted line that it creates indicates that it's in vertical vertical with the original center point. So you just drag, if you take it above or below, too far above or below, that dotted line disappears, meaning that you're not in vertical coincident or parallel with that center point's vertical. So yeah, you click a bit left, ensuring if it is on a vertical line, which it is for the circle, and just a bit to the left, but that's not 10 millimeters yet. So to create that dimension, you click on rapid dimension, select the center point of that circle and the center point of this circle, and then you can just drag it up or down, clicking, and then you'll specify the diameter or the distance. So that's 10 millimeters, and hit enter on your computer. So that's the center point for this big circle. Then the last circle here is another one, which is a radius of 47, so that's a diameter of 94. So you create another circle, and you'll also see that it's from the same center point. So it's on that center point. Let me just zoom out a bit. So it's on that center point, and it has a diameter of 94. So there's your 4 circles, and these circles represent these that you can see on the figure. So now to create this form of this hook, you'll first need to to create some or other line or feature from which you can then trim those original circles. So for this instance, I'll just zoom in a bit on that feature. So you'll see there's a curve with radius 22 and center point, and that center point is it's 2 millimeters from the original center point, and it's 43.95 millimeters from the original center point's vertical position. So I'm going to create a circle with radius 22, that's diameter 44, and I'm just going to create it somewhere here. So yeah, there you have that circle. So then you go back to the dimensions, and now I see, okay, it's 2 millimeters below that center point. So once again, you use the wrapper dimension feature. You click on the original center point and on this circle center point, drag it to the left. So you'll see if you want a horizontal measurement, you'll drag it upwards. Vertical, it's to the left or right. This is also downwards, and then it automatically changes depending on where you place the dimension. So you need to ensure that you place it in the correct position to create the correct dimension. So this was, if you click, this was 2 millimeters, and then also another dimension was this horizontal dimension of 43.95. So you'll click on the original center point, this center point, drag it down, and that's 43.95. So there you have that circle. Now it may look a bit confusing at the moment. So currently we have created that circle, and there's another circle with a radius of 15 and center point 5 millimeters above the original center point and 52 millimeters to the right of the original center point. So let's create another circle with diameter 30. I'll just create it here. Then you're going to use wrapper dimensions again. It's 5 millimeters above the original dimension center point, and it is 52 with a horizontal dimension from the center point. So that's 52. So just a final sketch that we need to make to create this point of the hook is that little circle there. And I see that I didn't give that dimension of that circle. So that has a diameter of 5 millimeters, and I'll just include that for the file that's being uploaded to eFundi. So it has a diameter of 5 millimeters. So if you go to NX, we can just create a circle and give it a diameter of 5. So that's not the correct position. So if you go back to make sense of what's going on here, let us trim some of the circles that's not required. So you can see that there is no circle going there, so we can trim that one. You can also see there's no circle there, so you can trim that one. We can trim this one. So now you'll see, okay, the hook must be somewhere here, and it's in this moon shaped circle now. So you can move this, or you can click on it. Click on let's move it first. So you can, so that little image it displays now, or a symbol shows for when the circles are coincident. So it automatically detects the coincidence of the two circles. So I'm just going to leave it there, and you can then see there's a tangent constraint between the two circles. Now you also want a tangent constraint between the circle and this curve. So you'll just right click on it, click on it, and also click on this circle, and then it will give you this list of features that you can do, and we once again use a tangent constraint. So there it moves that circle into the correct spot. Now we can trim those extra edges, so that can be trimmed this one we should leave first because it is that circle there. So if we go back to NX, so you can see that there's these two circles with the current constraints is not touching each other. So you cannot make a tangent constraint between the two. Otherwise, you'll change the features or the dimensions of the sketch. So then it must tell you that there's another feature there. So I'm going to create a line from the center point to the right, far to the right. And if you right click on that, you can say convert to a reference. So then it changes to a reference line. So now if you want to trim something, you can trim it on up until the reference line. So it does not trim the entire feature, so it still sees it as a line and not yeah, so you can use that. So with that reference line, I trimmed this circle. So now we can start to see the shape of this hook. So you can still see that there's no yeah, there's still a gap between these two curves, so you cannot create a tangent constraint. So the next thing that you can do is then or which the sketch requires you to do is to create a line between this circle and this circle, and you'll see it again gives you tangent constraints. So and that's what you want. So a tangent constraint at this circle and a tangent constraint on this curve. So let me just, so you start a sketch from here. From this curve to that curve with tangent constraints. And now you have this hook. So just with your yeah, with intuition you can then see, okay, there's the hook's curve. So what do I don't need to create this hook? I don't need this little curve. I don't need that curve. And I don't need this curve at the moment, but I need it for another feature. So there we have the hook structure. So you can, this curve is not necessary, that one's not necessary, and that one is not necessary. So there you have the form of this hook. And another feature that's not required is that circle. So there you have the form of that hook. Now you start working from the top, or from the middle rather, if you can see this as the middle of the hook, outwards. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to create this feature inside the hook. So this is typically milled out with a mill to reduce the weight of this hook but still keep its strength. So we have a circle here of radius 6, so let's create that circle quickly, and it's inside this, so we can just roughly draw a circle with radius 6, so its diameter 12. And also from this figure you can see that it is coincident or tangent to this curve and this curve. So this means it is tangent to both of these curves if you zoom out a bit. So that curve and that curve. So once again you hold on that circle on this one and it brings you the list of constraints, tangent constraint, and it moves it automatically. And it's also tangent to this curve, so you click on the two, just don't move your mouse away from those features because then it disappears. So on both of these curves and another tangent constraint. So there it's in the correct position. That's also a draftsman won't provide you dimensions if it's a dimension that's not required. You can already see that this hook has a lot of dimensions, which make it look a bit clustered. So it won't provide unnecessary dimensions because there is tangent constraints between this circle or curve and these two circles. Therefore, it doesn't provide you the distance from this center point to this center point, for instance. So you need to be able to see that. And from this, you can then say, okay, we don't need that inner curve. So once again, you go to the trim feature and trim that away. Similarly, for the other curve, it's a radius of 9. So it's a diameter of 18. That z is just the z-axis. I'll try and move that dimension a bit. So we have another circle around about here with a diameter of 18. And once again, for this one, you can see that it's tangent to both of those curves. So then this is quite not the correct position, so it needs to be somewhere here. Just want to make sure. Yeah. So if you create a tangent curve between these two and also a tangent constraint between these two curves, it moves it to correct location, and there you have that feature. I just want to make sure if it's the correct dimensions. Yeah. And you can also trim that feature. Sorry, my mistake. So you can just Control Z to undo. So I missed something. You'll see that this curve goes, and then there's a change in its in its shape, and this you can see from this dimension given. So it changes from a radius of 44 to a radius of 35, and this 35 center point is 9 millimeters from this center point, which is 10 millimeters from the original center point. So I'm going to create another circle vertical to this center point. It has a diameter of 70, radius 35, and then a wrapper dimension from this center point to this center point of 9 millimeters. So that circle is now in the correct place. It looks a bit clustered, but that's okay. So now you'll see, okay, that feature is not in this feature. There's no such line there, so you can trim that one away. And you can also see there's no line going over the top here, so you can trim that one away because that's the old line. So now you can see, okay, we have this line here and this line here. It's that one and it's that one. Now we can enter the circle of 18 millimeters diameter. We can just move it a bit and then create a tangent constraint between those two curves, and the tangent constraint between these two curves. That's more like it. So that's that feature. So once again, you can trim away this, and you'll see that from this picture there's no line there, so you can trim that one away. There's no lines here because that's the entrance of the hook, so you can trim this one is not required, this one is also not required, and this one and that one. So now you'll see we have that curve and this inner curve, which is still the complete circles. Another feature that you can trim is that one and that one. You can also trim that one and that one. So to create to ensure that, because if I trim this one, you'll see it removes the entire circle, so we don't want that. And what will stop that is this curve. So this curve is a radius of 39, and it goes vertically, yeah, it ends vertically. But to be able to create this curve, it's not a circle. As you'll see, there's no center point for this, and there's no constraint that will give you the correct position of the center point to be able to create this curve. So first we'll need to create that horizontal line. So that will give us the limit, if I can name it like that, from or to where this curve will stretch. So this curve will stretch somewhere from this circle where it's a tangent constraint to this horizontal line, and you'll see that this horizontal line is 60 millimeters from the top, and it has a width of 22 plus 1 on each side, so it's 24. So we can quickly create a line. You can just quickly draw a line. We know it's 24, and then click. And if you look on this graph, you'll also see that it indicates that the center point of this line is in the center, or is in this vertically above the center point of this circle. So you can then place your cursor on the line, click on the middle, so to get the midpoint, and then also click on the center point of that arc, and then it will once again give you some constraints that you can use. So this is a vertical alignment, so that automatically places it vertically above that center point, and then we can create the vertical dimension, which is 60 millimeters. And there we have that horizontal line that we're going to use for our limit from this circle to that circle to create that curve. So we're not going to use a circle for this, we're going to create the arc, and this arc is an arc by 3 points. So the first point is going to be on this arc, on that circle. The second point is going to be on that line, and then it wants you to specify the radius. So the radius for this one is 39. So we're going to specify the radius of 39, and it will automatically put it in the correct position. So if you move your cursor there, it will change, but you can see, okay, that's not the correct way, correct line. If you move it to the other side, that's also not correct, and that's also not correct. So the one that you're looking for is this one. So that's just by moving my cursor to the left or right. So NX automatically detects where you want to place that circle. So placing it close to where you want to put it actually, you can create it, and there is that line. So so from this you can then use the trim feature. So now you have created some other feature that will give you segments to trim from these curves. So now you can trim those two, and there we have the opening of the hook, as you can see in this picture. So that's opening, the opening is now created. Now to stop this curve or to trim this curve, we need that curve. So once again we will use that line and this curve to create an arc. So our first point will be on this arc, our second point will be on that point, and our radius is 15. So just specify the radius of 15, and you'll see now once again by moving your cursor, it will give you some places where you can place this curve, but we know it's that curve from looking at the figure. And there we have that. So now we have created almost the entire bottom half of this hook. So the last things to do is to create or to structure this a bit better. So we'll just trim that one, and yeah, there we have that feature. And then if you want to, you can just move all of these dimensions so that it looks a bit neater. However, to keep this video as short as possible, I'm not going to do that now, but you can move it once you move into the drafting environment. Yeah, you won't be you won't be seeing all of this, or once you finish the sketch, all of these dimensions will disappear. So the last thing that we need to create is this top part of the hook. And with this, I'm going to try and explain to you how to use the mirror feature inside NX. So the first thing that I'll suggest you do if you want to mirror something or create a mirrored sketch, so this will be our center line. So I'm just going to draw a line, doesn't matter the length, uh, vertically upwards, and then right click on this line and once again create it, transform it to a reference line. So I'm only going to sketch the left half of this top feature, and then I'm going to use the mirror feature to create the right half. So firstly we have a rectangular form of 25 and 22, so I'm going to make it 11. This is typically not the kind of because this features is quite easy to create. You won't typically use a mirror feature to create this because it's easier just to see, okay, it's 25 by 22, create that. But just for illustrative purposes, I'm going to show you how to create a mirrored feature, so or create a mirror from some other sketch. So that's 25 by 11. So 11 there and 25 there, and click enter and click on your left mouse button, so that will create that feature. The only thing now is there's a line there that will mirror once I mirror it, so I'm going to trim that line away. So now you only have that. So rather than using this box feature, the better way when you want to create the mirror is I'm just going to use line. So it's 25, create that one, and then we can quickly create a wrapper dimension, so we know that from that point to this line is 1 millimeter, and then we can create another line from there to the reference line. So you can either click on it there and it's a vertical line, you also see it with that little icon there, or what you can also do if you don't just for illustrative purposes drag the line until there. Now you see, oops, I actually wanted it to till there. You can use this extend feature. So if you hold over this line, it will extend the line to the next feature in the sketch. So now we have that side. If we zoom in a bit, we'll see that there's another small block there. Yeah, this graphics is not that good, but there's a small block with a height of 2 millimeters and a width of 16. So you'll see it's the same as that. So it's 16 and 2. So for this, I'll just create a line from here, which is 8 then, because it's half of 16. And then we can quickly give it that dimension, vertical dimension of 2 millimeters. And we can draw the final line from that point down to this line. So there we have that little feature. Then the next feature is it's very similar, it just has an angle going back to 20 millimeters. So we can quickly draw a line from this hook. You'll also see that the entire distance from here to here is 4 millimeters, and that's 2, which suggests that that also needs to be 2. So you'll see, let's just create, you can just draw the line quickly, then you can create what is a vertical dimension. So you click on the line and drag it to the left, so that will ensure that the horizontal distance from there to there is 2 if you specify it. And then we also know that from there to the middle needs to be 10 millimeters. So once again, using a wrapper dimension from that point to the center line needs to be 10. and there is that feature. It's that feature. Then there's another line going from this feature's point up until the center line. So just want to make sure it's a vertical line, or horizontal line, sorry. Then we have another line going upwards with 19 millimeters. So you can just draw it from here, 19. Then we go back to 16 millimeters. So and it's also, you'll see 17 from here to there and 15 from here to there, which 17 minus 15 is 2 millimeters. So once again it's a line. So here you'll see it gives you a perpendicular line from this line to that line. So that's a nice feature from NX. So it automatically detects what you want to do. So I'm just going to click there, and then automatically it's in vertical alignment and it's perpendicular, so it's exactly a mirror of that. It's not a mirror feature, it's just some feature from NX that makes it easier to draw the sketch. So then we have that line. The next is, there's another line from here back to the center line. So it's still there from here to the center line. Then we have, so that's a hole. That's where, no, sorry, so that's not a hole. It's just a feature in the hook. So that goes up by 15 millimeters from that point. So from there, 15 millimeters vertically upwards is another line. Then there's another line to the center point. And then there's also a angled line of 45 degrees from this point. So that's that point. Going at 45 degrees. So you'll also see that there's no dimension given for how far it goes to the left or to the right. So I'll show you now how to determine that length. So from this point, there's a line going 45 degrees. So let's just make it, I don't want that. So from here, just give it some other length and angle. And so this is 90 degrees and that's 180 degrees. So 180 or 90 plus 140 plus 45 is 135. So you can give it any length and then just the angle is 135. So then automatically it already has an angle of 45 from here or 45 from the horizontal. So to get a length of that, we have these two circles. So that circle has a radius of 5 millimeters. So we can put that circle in there. It's a radius of 5, so it's a diameter of 10. And then we can also see that circle is tangent to this line. So once again, you click on the line, on the circle, on the line, create a tangent dimension. But now you also see that this line and that can also still move. So that's one drawback from this automatic feature of NX. It doesn't create a dimension. So it suggests what you want to do, but it doesn't create a dimension to fix the constraint. So you'll be required to insert that dimension, and once that's inserted, now you'll see this circle will only be able to move up and down on that line, but there is no other movement. And that circle center distance is 15 millimeters from this point. So you can either specify it as 15 from the center point to this line, or you can use this feature where you once again click on the points and create a horizontal alignment, and that will automatically move the circle to the correct position, because that distance and that distance is precisely the same. But for instance, if this was 17 millimeters, you would have been required to create a dimension there. And then it's easy just to create a line from this circle. So you want it tangent to the circle and horizontal to that line. It seems not to be horizontal, so let's just make sure it's horizontal. So it's from there to this line. So if you want to make sure it's horizontal, because sometimes if you bring the line to here, it's easier to move it because it doesn't lock it in position. So, but if you, for instance, if you create this line from here, so you'll see it locks it there. So I can move my mouse a bit before it moves it to another direction. But once you're on this line, you can move in any direction. So you'll see also when you do this inside NX. So typically if I want to ensure that it creates a horizontal line, so there it's in locked position horizontal, and then I'll just use the extend feature to extend this line to the reference line. So the last thing to do is to trim that away, and now you'll see that we have, sorry, you can also trim that extended line away. So now you'll see that we have created this top feature, but only the left half. We have not created that circle, but that's quite an easy process once the entire feature is inserted. So we have created the left side. So now it's quite easy to mirror this side. So you go to the mirror feature, you click on all the curves that you want to mirror. So NX will automatically, you'll see that there is a selection, so connected curves. If you put it on single curves, it will only select single curves at a time. Connected curves will automatically detect curves that's connected to the curve that you select. So there you see it's all that lines, and that's all the features that we want to mirror. So the first operation to do is by selecting a curve, and then you select the center line. So our center line in this case will be the reference line, and once you click on that, it will mirror all those features about the center line. And if you click OK, there you have it. So there's the center line. Yeah, there's the feature. You only draw the left hand side, use the mirror feature, and now you have this entire feature. So the last thing to add is that circle, and we can see it's 10 millimeters from that line, which is this line, and it's also on the center point. So it's easy. It has a diameter of 4, radius 2. So diameter 4, and then you have a wrapper dimension from this center point to this line. It is 10 millimeters. And that's your circle. So that is how you create this hook. It's quite an intensive process. Yeah, but it's a nice thing to show you a lot of features inside NX. So this is the example 3 for week 3. The last thing that I can maybe do is to hide all the yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, if you say finish, all the dimensions and all the reference lines, etc. will be removed, and by observing it from the front view, there you have the hook created as given the instructions from this technical drawing. So it's yeah, it's quite a process to get to this, but it's satisfying once you obtain the final product. So thank you for listening, and see you in class.